Hello and welcome back to the Battle Inside podcast. I'm once again Chris America, and this is episode number 2 of the Battle Inside podcast. The podcast where I'm, journaling, podcasting, vlogging. I don't know what you call this, but just going on my journey of my desire to get better with my mental health, to take control of it instead of having it always control me, to figure out what's going on, dealing with some of the issues that have long been needed to take care of, whether it's from my childhood, my teenage years, and even a lot of my adult life, just going through different things and finding healthier ways to deal with those issues and healthier ways to deal with my mental illness. Since we last dropped the podcast, I felt really good last week. Felt good to record, felt good to get things off my chest, and I was feeling good that night. That night I went to bed pretty easily. And then I woke up the next morning and got on the computer, started to upload the podcast, and as it's uploading, I'm starting to have doubts. And the anxiety is starting to go up. Whew, here we go. Time to expose yourself to the world. Time to let all your friends and family know exactly what you did 4 days ago. Time to let your family know exactly what you've done. Friends and family, exactly what you've done in the past. And time to let total strangers know. And I didn't want to hit the post button. I really didn't. And I typed out the description, 5 different ways of the episode. I did everything to buy time to not post the episode. But then finally, I just said, screw it, hit post, closed out the computer, and walked away. And spent the rest of the morning being pretty anxious about it. I regretted it. I hated it. I didn't want people to think I was weak. I didn't want people to think I was crazy. I didn't want people to think I was going insane. And I didn't want to scare people. That's the worst. So today's episode, I'm going to talk about the stigma of mental health and the stigma of suicide, and why that is it's the worst. It is the worst. It is what keeps people from calling out for help. It's what keeps people from asking for help. It's what keeps people from going to get help, is the stigma. Like, I've felt weird, very weird the last couple of weeks talking about how I have an appointment with my therapist. And it shouldn't be that way, right? It should be just like I said, hey, I'm going to the doctor, going to, going to the proctologist, going to the podiatrist, going to the dentist, whatever. That's what it should be like. Everybody, when you hear, I'm going to the therapist, people should say, good for you, man. Good for you. So I got on and went to work and just waited. And it was a slow process. It wasn't like I hit post and then all of a sudden 15 messages came in and all this other stuff. No, it was a very slow process. It took a little while for it to come. And I got some good news and some bad news. So I always like to go bad news first, and that way I can kind of go, okay, that sucks. But then now let me hear the good news to cheer me up. That's kind of the way I've always been. So I'm going to give you the bad news first. The bad news is I got one negative comment, and I'll go over what that one negative comment was and how it affected me, because it didn't happen right away. It happened a couple of days later where I got the one negative response and everything. So I'll go over that, but now I kind of want to go over the positive comments and how many of those I got. So just going to go through a few of them. I got, then on top of that, so much respect for doing this podcast. It's always brave to talk about a mistake or a bad phase in our lives, but it's much easier to talk about it when it's in the past and victory has been attained. It's still fear of failure. It's rare because it takes a serious set of kahunas to talk about it while it's going on. So that was one message I received from a friend. Got another one that came in. That podcast series is going to help many people. If it doesn't help them open up, it will help them not feel so alone in shouldering the burden of suffering in silence. What got me crying was when you were describing just wanting to be heard. How just having friends to bear witness and hear you out helped talk you down from the edge. Powerful stuff, guy. I'm proud of you. Then I started getting some tweets in. One person tweeted, "Something men don't like to admit because we are taught to be tough and don't want to show weakness. There are many too scared to admit and more prevalent than anyone knows. Much strength in admission. You are strong." Another one, "Chris, I don't know you personally, but I am so proud of you. I know doing this is far from easy. I'm going to tune in. Hugs for you. Keep fighting the stigma." Another person, "Much love and respect for you, bro. One day at a time. I'll definitely check it out. Good luck. Good luck though on your journey, and I hope your day gets better. And FYI, you definitely made my day better by sharing your story." And got a couple more. "Thank you for sharing this, Chris. Healing is the greatest journey ever. We learn so much about ourselves and help others along the way. Courage, strength, and prayer. You rock. You, my friend, are incredibly courageous and strong. The stigma surrounding mental health, the stigma surrounding being a male and struggling with mental health, and the stigmas with being a father and struggling with mental health, it is an uphill battle. But still, you rise." So that was a few of them. I'm going to kind of go through a few more as we go along with the show. That really helped me out. Way more than I was anticipating. I had several more messages. It was humbling. Usually when I go through these episodes of depression and like severe depression and severe anxiety where I'm having to be Baker acted, I usually stay silent. And I didn't realize this, but I'm going to go back. Sorry, that's the ADHD talking. Baker acted. I didn't realize that was just a Florida thing. I thought that was a nationwide law, but I guess every single state has their own thing. So what Baker acting is, if you're not in the state of Florida, is it's a law that says that if you go to a psychiatrist, psychologist, teacher, firefighter, doctor, police officer, if you say, "Hey, I want to harm myself or others," then they have to take you to a mental health ward at a hospital or a, sometimes they have standalone places like behavioral health centers and stuff like that. And you have at least 72 hours to stay there. By law, you have to stay there for 72 hours. And then it's up to your doctor, the doctor on the staff there at the facility you're at, to decide whether or not you're still a danger to yourself and others. So it could be longer. And the only way you can get out is to, get better, prove that you're not going to harm yourself or others. Or there are legal ramifications where you can get lawyers and stuff, but that's like in an extreme case. But, yeah, so that's Baker acted. So whenever you hear myself say Baker acted, it means that I at least spent 3 days at some sort of mental health facility. Now I forgot where I was. Oh, man, this ADHD thing is kicking my butt. So I got a lot of good comments. Yeah, that's where I was. Sorry. All right, so I'm going to leave this part in here. Not going to edit. Too much time. All right, so the times before, I never reached out. I'd reach out to one friend, two friends, and if I got Baker acted, I definitely didn't tell anybody. I just kind of disappeared for 3 days, and then, if I turned on my phone and there was a couple of missed text messages, I say, "Sorry, just been busy," that kind of thing. And this time, I'm reaching out. I'm telling people. I'm obviously telling the whole world. Obviously, I didn't reach out that Friday, which I should have. And I got some more messages and stuff from that, from people hearing the podcast and knowing what happened on Friday and everything. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But I've had so many friends and family members and strangers just reach out and send me the type of messages that I just read to you. People I didn't even expect messages from. People I am just Facebook friends with, and we kind of know each other like more like acquaintances, and just the outpouring of love and support and just encouragement has been tremendous. And like I said, I'm humbled. I am blessed. Usually, like I said, when I go through this by myself, one of the negative thoughts I think about is nobody cares about you, Chris. You are not cared about. And that's a lie. And we're going to talk about a lot about lies with the stigma part of it. So, with the negative reaction that I got, no, let me finish my update first. So, I think I dropped the podcast Wednesday morning, started freaking out. Then I started getting the messages, and I was like, okay. While I was freaking out, I started lying to myself, like, oh, what are you doing, man? You're not a medical expert, which, again, I failed to mention at the beginning of the episode. I am not a medical doctor, a medical expert. I am not a mental health expert. I cannot give you advice. I'm just a dude trying to figure my ass out. I'm just a guy just trying to, like I said, document, journal, do some good in the world, try to have an impact. And so far, it looks like I have. And I'll go over one of the messages that I got that really, really inspired me. Let me know that I should continue doing this podcast. And so I went to my therapist on Thursday, and I'm still in a deep rut. And we're talking it out. We're talking about all the different things I got going on. And by the end of the session, I'm like, I got to admit, I feel like I'm just spinning my tires right now. I feel like I'm just not getting better. And she just kind of smiled and said, did you expect to just wave a magic wand? And I'm like, no, I didn't mean that. I know it's going to take time. I'm just impatient, especially when it comes to this stuff. I just want to get back to my normal self. I don't want to feel pain. I don't want to feel weakness. I don't want to be, struggling with this whole ordeal. I want to be at that place where I've arrived. That's the way I always am. And she says, look, it's going to take time and it's going to take patience. And you're doing all the right steps. You're doing everything the right way. You're being healthy about it this time, Chris. You just got to trust the process. And so I am. Normally, to get myself out of ruts, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time, and if mom and sis, if you're listening, just turn it down for like 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds. Just turn it down. Let 20 seconds go by. Do it now. Okay, hopefully they're not listening, but I usually turn to alcohol and random sex. That's what I usually do to get rid of my rut. I turn to alcohol to numb out the pain, and I turn to sex to make myself feel like I have worth, like I have value, like somebody wants me. Thank you. Thank you for giving me value. And that is something that I obviously need to talk to my therapist about, because that's not healthy. And we're going to work on that. And I'm pretty sure I know the reasons why, which we'll go into on later episodes. But for now, hopefully you're back, mom and sis. Yeah, so that's what I did. I would use those two things to help me get through. And unfortunately, I only numbed the pain until like, that time process goes out of it, and I wouldn't deal with the issue. It's kind of like when I get sick and I start taking antibiotics, and then the second I start feeling better, I stop taking antibiotics. I just like, okay, I'm feeling better now. And I know you're supposed to take all of them, but I just don't. And it's a lot worse when you do that with mental health. When you just get to the point where you're feeling better, and then you say, okay, I'm good now, and just walk away. And that's what I did. That's what I've been doing my entire adult life. So, then comes Friday. Apparently Fridays are just not good days for me so far. Everybody's like, Friday, yeah, Friday. Let's go, let's party it up. Friday is when I got the negative response. And the negative response was basically that they were afraid of me, or they were in fear of me rather than being afraid for me. or have fear for me. Rather than, I don't know if that makes sense. They were afraid of me instead of being afraid for me. That was the negative response. And it hit me like a ton of bricks because it made me feel dangerous. It made me feel like I should have never released the podcast, that this is it. This is the thing that I feared. This is the stigma, that I'm a danger to society. I'm a danger to people around me, and people are afraid of me. And it sucked because I felt like I was doing really good that week. I mean, I was still in my rut. I was still really depressed. I still had my waves. I still had my problems going on, and I still do now, but I was doing so much better. I was light years ahead of where I was 2 Fridays ago. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, please go back to episode 1 and listen to that. And I appreciate everybody that's listened so far. Tons of listens. But so 2 Fridays ago, I thought about, contemplated, seriously had pills strewn out on the table, contemplating suicide. And now this past Friday, which today is Monday the 15th. So you kind of know Monday, April 15th. If you're listening to the podcast way later in time, this is Monday, April 15th, 2019. And that's the ADD again. So back to this negative response. And like I said, it sucked. I felt dangerous. I felt worthless. I felt like, why did I ever admit to it? Why did I do something so unbelievably stupid? Like, why would I do that? How many other people think I'm a danger to them and you know, not safe to be around? How many other people are thinking that? If this one person thought it, how many other people are thinking it? And this is the lie that the brain takes on. Like, I had so many people telling me how great the podcast was and everything else like that. And now I have this one person to just bring it all down. And then something happened. About 20, 30 minutes later, I get a message on my Twitter machine. And I've changed my Twitter name, by the way. It's at the Chris America, THE Chris America. I had to change it just because I have 2 shows now. And it's the Chris America, not because I'm being cocky or whatever, because somebody decided to take my Twitter account or not my Twitter account, but take the Chris America name. I don't know who that imposter is, but anyways, again, ADHD. It's pretty high tonight. All right, so the text message that I got, or the message on Twitter that I got after the negative comment: hey man, I just want to say thanks and keep doing what you are doing. I have and continue to struggle with anxiety and depression. Not to your extent, but it consumes my life and has for a long time. I'm 51 and have dealt with it as long as I can remember. I just want to know you are an inspiration, and I look forward to future podcasts. Who knows? Maybe I'll even stop this madness. Let it out and get some help. I know this podcast isn't easy, but just wanted you to know, in addition to helping yourself, getting this out will help others who fight this struggle daily. Big thumbs up. This was a complete stranger who just happened to see one of my podcasts from people who shared and was kind enough to reach out to me. And I told him, I was like, look, you have no idea how crazy it is that you sent me this message at this time. Like, I was like, you have no idea how much that means to me and how much I needed to hear that. And it was kind of just one of those things where life kicks you in the nuts and you're on the floor, and then something else comes along and picks you up. And so it felt good. I got a lot of responses like that. So now I'm going into the podcast with more confidence. And as I continue to grow and build and get stronger, I'm gaining more happiness, more fulfillment out of life, and I'm slowly putting the pieces back together. And I'm getting there, and I'm pretty excited about it. Actually, tonight, I'm pretty sure you can tell by my voice, different from last week, that I'm in a much better place right now. I'm nowhere near home. Right now, I think it's just a workout high, and I'm feeling good. I went to the gym today, got in some leg work. Can't spell legendary without leg day. just trying to do positive, healthy things. This past weekend, one of my homework assignments with the therapist, she told me to make plans with my son. So we did. I stayed at my brother's house this past weekend. I had to get out of my location, my current home, and the place that I'm staying for a little while until I can get on my feet after the school year. Wasn't ready yet. I had to move in on Sunday, so I had to bounce out of where I was staying at. It just wasn't a good situation for me and my path to healing. So I had to go, and I went to my brother's house and my sister-in-law, and they all received me with open arms, and it was great. And so we went, and I took my nephew on Saturday. We went and saw the movie Shazam. It was pretty good. It's a cute little movie, good for a 10-year-old kid. So I had fun with that. And then Sunday, we went out to Universal, and my little boy was trying to be strong for me. I still wasn't. I tried my hardest to be there for him, and he tried his hardest to be there for me. It was really, really sweet and cute. I am such a blessed dad to have a kid with such a big heart. And I know he's going to grow up to be a good man, and we're going to get him some counseling as well, get him some therapy to help him deal with what's going on in his life. And he was pretty strong for most of the weekend when he found out that we were finally moving out, that time that we had talked about us moving out and everything. He was handling it in stride, and he was being a rock, and I can tell he was kind of trying to just continue to have fun. And then, unfortunately, last night, he had a hard time sleeping. We were finally settled into our new place. I think just being somewhere new and that this is it. I think the reality finally set in, and he just started crying, and I just held him and just told him to just talk it out. Just tell me all of your thoughts. And I tried. If I had an answer, I had an answer. Like one of the things he said is, "I don't understand why this is going on." And I said, "Buddy, I honestly I don't know either. But you and I are gonna get through this together, and we're just gonna be here for each other." And he talked out some more things that he was thinking, and we just talked him out. And then finally, he calmed himself down, and it was a good moment. It was a good moment for me, because this time I didn't feel like a failure of a father. This time I didn't let the lie come in. I finally was just that rock that my son needed, which, by the way, he wants to be called Little America on the show because his name starts with L and he's smaller than me and he wants to be called Little America. So Little America, God, I love that kid. Anyways, so he calmed himself down, and I was finally able to be that rock for him. He'd been my rock all weekend. Anytime he saw that my gaze was in the distance and I was lost in my thoughts and not really doing so well inside my head, he would kind of give me a hug and tell me he loves me, tell me I'm the best daddy ever. And it was really awesome. It was a really good weekend, and it was the best homework assignment I've ever had, is taking my son to Universal. And so that was my week leading up to today. Went to the gym today. Like I said, I'm feeling good. And this episode, as I'm going to get to it, is about the stigma. The stigma of mental health, the stigma of suicide. And why did I not reach out on Friday? Why was it on Friday, when I desperately needed help, I desperately wanted help, did I not reach out? Because I was scared. I was scared of what was going to happen. I was scared to be Baker acted, which is a terrible fear. Listen, if you're where I'm at, don't be like me. Go get help. It is much better to spend 3 days at the hospital than it is to spend the rest of your life dead. And so yes, don't do what I did. That was stupid. Secondly, if you don't feel like doing that, then reach out. I get it. The stigma's there. But as I've proven, and my friends have proven, and my family has proven, not everybody is like that one person. But the stigma is there because I don't want to be treated differently. I don't want people to walk on eggshells around me. I don't want to constantly ask how I'm doing. I just don't want to be treated differently. Like I said with the negative response, I didn't want to be feared. I didn't want to be called crazy. I didn't want to seem weak and be called selfish or a bad father. I felt like all those things were going to happen if I reached out. And these are lies. So when you're suicidal and you're contemplating suicide, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody. I sometimes talk in generalizations. So for me, I start telling myself lies. And there's tons of them. The whole selfish thing and everything. That's the biggest one. You feel like you're being selfish, and so that leads you into a deeper depression. And I should stop saying you. I feel like I'm being selfish, and so that leads me into a deeper depression. And then I feel like a bad father because I'm even contemplating this, because I'm even thinking about doing this and hurting my son. And then I feel like nobody's going to want to be around me. Everybody's going to be afraid of you. And the truth is, well, no, let me go back. I feel like a broken piece of glass, like a glass bowl fell on the ground and it shattered and there's shards everywhere. And I feel like that's it. I can't be fixed. Once the glass is broken, you're done. You're just a pile of shards, and now you're dangerous for people to be around. Like when a glass bowl breaks, people say, stay away. Don't go near it. That's dangerous. And then what do you do with glass on the ground? You sweep it up and you throw it away. That is the lie I tell myself. That I can't be fixed. I'm unfixable. And that I'm not good to be around. I'm dangerous and I'm ruining everything, and nobody likes a pile of glass on their kitchen floor. It's just the worst. And that's what you feel like, or that's what I feel like. I feel like, you can't continue to mess up your kid's life if you're not around. You get that one last chance to mess up his life, and then he has the rest of his life to not have it messed up by his dad. That's the lie. That is the honest lie that I'm telling myself. And then the other one is just that when you get to that point, you're just in so much pain. Like, you're just in so much pain. I don't know how to explain it. And all you want is the pain to stop. All you want is your mind to be quiet. And so, in an oversimplified way, suicide is selfish if you look at it in an oversimplified way. But there's nothing simple about mental health, and there's nothing simple about a person who's feeling suicidal. It is such a complex thing. And all of these thoughts, all of the things that I'm telling you is happening in a matter of seconds, and they're just playing over and over and over in your head as you sit there and you just stare at those pills or whatever it is you're deciding to do it with. And luckily there's been moments where I either talk myself down, I reach out for help, or somebody intervenes. Or I just suck at doing it, I guess. I don't know. But there's that stigma. There's that stigma that keeps you from reaching out for help, and then there's that stigma that keeps you from telling other people, especially in relationships. Nobody wants to be with somebody who's suicidal. Nobody wants to be with somebody who's depressed. Again, that's the lie. That's the lie you're being told, or that's the lie I'm being told by myself. Everybody wants a strong man. Every woman wants a man who's got his stuff together, and a lot of that is true. But I also need to realize that I need a partner who's got the strength and the love and the care and the heart to stick by my side and be with me through my mental health, rather than somebody who, the second it comes up, I'm out. I can't deal with you no more. And I mean, that's kind of like with anything, right? Like, I don't want to be with somebody the second I get cancer, they bounce. I don't want to be with somebody the second I get, I don't know, in a car accident and I can't walk anymore, they bounce. So why would I want to be with somebody who can't hang out and can't be there for me and can't support me through mental health issues? And that's the truth that I need to start building myself towards. That is the truth in my next relationship. The next time I decide that I'm ready to be in another relationship, that's the truth I have to tell myself, that I deserve to be with somebody who is going to be there for me and support me no matter what. And it's hard to figure out who that person is. It's hard to know if you have that person or not, because you don't know until you know. This stuff is so hard. There's no really book out there for normal people to read and figure out. Like, we have CPR classes, and CPR is only 5% successful, or is successful 5% of the time. Yeah, we don't have any crisis intervention classes for people to do, like what to do, what to say, how to say it, what to not say when somebody comes to you and says, I want to kill myself. I mean, that's scary. I I would be scared if somebody said I want to kill myself, and I've been there before. Now I can relate, and that fear kind of just dissipates right away, but it's just shocking when it happens. So I get it. I understand it. But we have to stop the stigma. I mean, I think that's one of the top killers. I've done no studies, so I'm just speaking from my own thoughts. But I know that that's what keeps me, is the stigma. It keeps me from getting help. It keeps me from reaching out. Because we do sometimes. Some of us do treat people differently. Sometimes we are afraid, and sometimes for good reason. Look, if someone says that they want to commit suicide to you, it's okay to be afraid. That is a scary thing. That is a seriously scary thing, because you don't know where they're at or what they're capable of doing. Try to get there, or try to be as much help as you possibly can. And if it's way beyond your ability to help, if you feel like you're getting nowhere, call the police, call the fire department, call a doctor, call somebody, call in help, call in other friends. Get that person surrounded by people that love them and everything else. If they're out of the woods, though, and you heard, like, hey, by the way, I just got, out of the hospital. I tried to kill myself last week. It's still okay to be afraid, but it's not okay to be afraid of them like this person was. You need to be afraid for them, and you need to let them know, hey, just so you know, I'm worried about you. I don't want to lose you. I think you're important, and I'm here for you. If you ever need anything, I am here for you. And if you're still afraid of that person, then say, talk to me. I gotta admit to you, I gotta be honest with you. I'm kind of scared of what you might do. I don't know, don't say it like that. I don't know what I'm saying. I feel like I would just want somebody to say, hey, just tell me what's going on. Tell me why you're feeling this way. Tell me where you're at now. Are you doing better? Are you still feeling suicidal? If so, like, can we try to get you more help? What can I do to help? What do you need me to do? Do you want to just talk? Let's talk. Tell me about what you're doing and feeling. I feel like that's what I would want. I don't know if that's the expert advice, but for me, that's what I've wanted this whole time. Just for somebody to say, hey, man, I care about you. I'm worried about you. And I want to be there for you. You hit me up anytime you want. Or if you need help, just hit me up. So that's really all you need to do. I'm not going to say that's all you need to do. Look, I'm not an expert. I should stop talking like I'm an expert. That's really all I want people to do. I want to be encouraged. I want to have support. I want to be listened to. Yeah, I just want to be listened to, man. That's all anybody wants to get. Right? When you have something going on, you just need somebody to hear your problems. You just need somebody to talk it out with you. And I want to read you something my brother had wrote. It's called Can You Do Something? And it goes something like this. Listen. I know that my mental health gets in the way. Listen. I thought that it would just be you and I. Listen. Listen. I thought you knew I constantly fight suicide. Listen. I love you just as much as depression makes you want to sleep. Listen. I express how tender my heart is, and your anger only makes it more tender. Listen. I'm learning to have boundaries that don't turn into walls so that I can still love. Listen. I know that my mental health gets in the way, but can it not when it stares at us every single day? Sorry, I said that wrong. Listen, I know that my mental health gets in the way, but how can it not when it stares at us every single day? Listen. Listen. The world has judged me, and at times I've agreed that's why I'm now fighting to be free. Listen. I don't know how to be happy, so I try to make you happy. Listen. I'm trying to give the voiceless a voice of healing, a voice of peace, a voice without anger, a voice to explore freely after escaping captivity. Listen. I've seen the waiting room at the hospital full of worried people during a medical emergency, and I've seen how empty the therapist's waiting room is. The silence screams volumes, and the person received service a lot of times has no control over which service they are receiving. Even in the age of high celebrity support and awareness, we as a society are still deaf, are still passing around stigma as if the GDP depended on it, as if we still believe that it's fake. Listen. It's the one thing we don't do. Listen. My brother also has his issues. I don't want to go too far into them because I try not to share, but he said I can share that, and I shouldn't say he has his issues. He has his mental health struggles as well, and he's been doing therapy for 6 years now, and he's been an awesome support to me because he's been there, and he's been awesome. Like I said, I spent the weekend with him and his wife, and it was a good time. Good talks, good laughs, good times. So I think that is one way that we can stop the stigma is to just listen to each other. Listen with compassion, listen with an open heart, listen with an open mind, and listen to not give answers, but listen to encourage, listen to just be there, to just give someone a voice. And so before I close out the podcast, I have a couple of things I want to read you. One was a response that came quite early, and it again just let me know that I'm doing the right thing. That this podcast is a positive thing for the world, that I'm making an impact, and that makes me feel good. And that's what I want out of life. I want to make a difference in this world, and so I'm hoping I can with this podcast. I'm hoping I can by making myself a better person, by getting myself healed so that way I can inspire others and encourage others and help others be strong. So I have this message sent from a friend who said, "So it literally gives me chills listening to your podcast about what you are currently going through because the past 3 weeks have been almost exactly the same. 3 weeks ago, I had a situation happen that led me to become suicidal again. I had an anxiety attack at work and literally just clocked out and went home after fighting with a supervisor. I was intoxicated and texted my brother that I wanted to shoot myself sometimes. So he tells my mom. Next morning, she's at my house while I'm asleep talking to my husband about what's going on with me, and my husband has no idea. So, to make a long story short, I agreed to see my GP, and they put me on SSRI. I don't know what either of those means, sorry. So this is the 4th different time I've tried them, and I always feel really bad and just not myself and nauseous all the time, which triggers my anxiety. So I miss a week of work and go back for one day and got drunk. Okay, sorry. I miss a week of work, and then I went back. I go back for one day and got drunk in the parking lot with people, got sick. They had to clock me out of work early and drive me home at 5:30 in the morning. So they go get my husband to get me out of the car. I was passed out. So they put me in the bed, my husband said, but all I remember is getting my husband's gun and trying to figure out how to take the safety off because I've never even held a gun really. So anyways, I shot a hole into the wall to make sure it was loaded and then put it to my head, but my husband got the gun away in time. So I miss another week of work cuz I literally am so depressed and can barely move, but still want to die, but the feeling passes. So I've been diagnosed with depression and bipolar disorder since I was like 15 and been going through it ever since. So I have an appointment now to see a psychiatrist because I'm 110% positive now that I have insight that I was misdiagnosed and have borderline personality disorder. I'm not sure if you've been diagnosed with that, but from your story, Chris, it sounds like that's what's going on because I get the exact same way with relationships. It's always a pattern of getting suicidal when there's turmoil in relationships that mean a lot. Anyways, I know this is a long A message, but I just feel like I had to reach out because I'm trying to help my husband understand how to help me with my mental illness because we've been going through it for so many years. And he tells me I shouldn't feel ashamed. Hopefully he won't be mad I told you all of this. Okay. She did give me permission to read this. So I don't know if her husband listens or if he'll figure it out. But I asked her. She said yes. She said that would be okay if I read it. Yeah. Um, so it's crazy to know. It's crazy to know that there's other people. It's not crazy to know. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word. That's a bad word. It's good to know that I made that kind of difference on her or somebody else that made them feel like, hey, I'm not alone. There's somebody else that feels just like me. And it's crazy that simultaneously our lives are paralleled right now and we're going through the same thing and we didn't even know it. And I don't think she would have ever told me had I not made this podcast, and I would have never told her. But now we have this podcast and we connected. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, the Friday before, when I had the thoughts, a couple of people listened to it that I had actually talked to that night that I didn't really mention because they either invited me or I tried to invite myself to hang out with them. One was my brother and my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law sent me a text message saying, hey, Chris, me, the nephew, and your brother are going out bowling. You want to come? And by that time, I'd already taken my one Ativan. If you guys remember, I took one Ativan, hoped that it would just calm me down and get me tired enough to go to sleep, and then I took another one when that didn't work after a half hour. And I said, no, I've taken an Ativan. She called me an old man, just kind of joking around, and that was that. She told me this weekend, she's like, literally, Chris, I knew I felt something was up, and that I just thought I should just invite you. So that's what I did. And she's like, I wish I would have pressed more. And I was like, look, you couldn't have known. There's no way of knowing because I didn't give out any sort of signs. And then the next was my friend, one of my other friends. I had asked him what he was doing. He said that he was hanging out with him and his wife and his son, that they had plans. And he invited me out, but when you're feeling the way that I was feeling, I didn't want to be around a lot of people, especially around a kid. Like, not because I was dangerous, but because I just didn't want to have to, like, put on the face. That's the other thing about why you hide is you don't want to be out in public. You don't want to be around people. You don't want to have people say, what's wrong? What's going on? And all of that stuff. So he sends me a message on Saturday. This past Saturday, finally listened to the podcast, and he said, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. I had no idea that things were going that bad internally for you. I honestly thought you wanted to grab dinner and shoot the S to get your mind off of Jen. Sorry, I shouldn't have read that, but off of your ex. So that's why I asked if you cared. That's why I asked if you cared if my wife and my son came. None of us ate yet. Just know if you ever need me, holla. Just holla. Remember, I'm the guy that's going to take care of things when you show up at my door with a shovel covered in you know what. Anyway, don't ever feel like you failed Landon. I've told you before, I've seen a completely different Chris America than little America arrived. When little America arrived, I saw a dad, a hero, and a man. The true meaning of a man I've always wanted to be able to do for my son, like I saw you and little America. This podcast wasn't even just about you. It showed that the love of a father for his son can overpower the darkest eternal demons and take you from death's door to new life. You have overcome yourself and made the strides to make a new life for you and, more importantly, little America. Again, you show me the power of a father's love and encourage me to be a father and a man. I love you and don't ever hesitate to reach out. I don't give an F if I'm at work, at an Orlando City game, or whatever. You just holler at me. So I told him, thanks for all of that. Thanks for saying it meant a lot. He's a lot like me. He doesn't open up much. We don't have many bro moments where we say I love you, man, and all the other stuff. So that was probably the most wordy exchange he's ever given me, and I loved it. It meant a lot. So I told him, listen, don't be hard on yourself. There's no way you could have known. I should have reached out to you. And that's what I want to tell you. If you're sitting here thinking about suicide and you're trying different ways, just try to reach out. I know it's hard. I know it's so hard, but I'm going to end the show now, and I'm going to end it the same way every single time. And that is, if you are struggling and you can't reach out to a friend, you can't reach out to a loved one, you can't reach out to the person sitting next to you or a stranger next to you, here are a couple of links. One of the ways you can go is go to suicide.org. It's a suicide prevention awareness and support. You can go to, if you're not in the U.S., you can go to suicide prevention lifeline.org. That's the suicide helpline, the National Suicide Helpline. That's suicide prevention lifeline.org. That's all one word. They also have a phone number, 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. Sorry, I thought that said international, but it was prevention. And then another one, you can go to the crisistextline.org. Crisistextline.org, and you text home to 741-741, and I believe they will text you back. It's a crisis text line from anywhere in the U.S. to text with a trained crisis counselor. I've made a couple of connections through this show and through my other podcast. One is a gentleman by the name of Al Levine, or Levine. I think it's Levine. And you can find his podcast at thedepressionfiles.com / I think it's a / whichever. Try one until it works. / podcast. Or you can just follow him on Twitter at ALLEVIN 18 ALL Alpha Lima Lima Echo Victor India November 18. And he informed me that if you don't want to do any of those text lines and you want to talk to somebody else who's been through it, he's a peer coach, he's a public administrator, he's a mental health advocate and blogger, public speaker. He said you can reach out to him on Twitter. Again, that's at ALLEVIN 18. Another great guy on Twitter that I know, he does another sports show, and he ends every show that if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like you want to end things, or just, you need someone to talk to, you can reach out to him. He has a whole bunch of resources, and that's at Memphis Spence, one word, at Memphis Spence, MEMPISSPENCE, at Memphis Spence. You can shout out at him, and like I said, you can talk to me. I'm not an expert, not a doctor. I can't give you advice. I can't tell you what to do. I'm still trying to figure out my stuff, but I can do what my brother said to do, and that's just listen. So you can hit me up at the Chris America, and hit me up on Twitter. And this was another really good episode. I don't think I'm going to freak out as much when I post this tomorrow on Tuesday. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Pretty excited about what we're going to be doing in the future and what my future holds. For now, I'm doing great. And I couldn't be happier. And with that said, once again, if you need help, please make sure you reach out to somebody. Anybody. We're all here for you. There's a lot of people out there, and I think you should just let people surprise you. Because A lot of people surprised me this week, and it's really helped. So help yourself, reach out, and get yourself the help you need. No need to wait anymore. Just do it. Thanks again for listening. It's been my pleasure. If you love what you hear, please make sure you share this. Share it to your friends. Share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. Please just help get the word out. I had a tremendous amount of downloads, and I would love to get so many more because it's helping me. Gonna be selfish. This is helping me. So help me, help you, help me. Love you guys.